All right, let's dive right into this explainer and uncover the actual secret to building true, lasting emotional resilience. We live in a world that is just completely obsessed with quick fixes, life hacks, and those overnight success stories. But if you stop and think about the most genuinely resilient people you know, the ones who seem to weather absolutely any storm without losing their footing, you'll quickly realize their strength definitely didn't come from some weekend workshop. So, what is it that actually gives them that incredible, unwavering stability? Well, today, we're going to visually map out exactly how that works and look at why true stability requires a radically different approach from what society usually preaches. It's a fundamental question that honestly we've all probably asked ourselves at some point. Why do some people just completely crumble under the absolute slightest bit of criticism, while others stand completely unshaken during life's massive disasters? I mean, we've all seen people who look incredibly successful on the outside completely fall apart when real disaster strikes. Why does that happen? We're going to explore why visible success doesn't always equal inner strength, and how you can actually develop an immovable heart to navigate absolutely any challenge that gets thrown your way. Because the truth is, what we see on the surface, that rarely tells the whole story of a person's true ability to withstand hardship. We're pulling these fascinating insights directly from a book titled Fudoshin. Now, that term translates to an unshakable or immovable mind. And it's super important to clarify what that actually means right off the bat. It's not about stubbornness or just rigidly refusing to change your opinions. Not at all. Rather, it points to a profound inner peace and a truly unwavering core. The author presents this framework for building a character so deeply strong that it remains entirely unaffected by external praise or harsh criticism. It's about creating a foundational structural stability that comes entirely from within, rather than relying on fickle external validation. Today, we're going to focus specifically on Chapter 1, which brilliantly illustrates the concept of human resilience using the incredibly evocative metaphor of an iceberg in the ocean. And let me tell you, it's a real game changer for how you view personal growth. It's so powerful because it perfectly visualizes the relationship between what the world sees, the flashy, visible stuff, and what actually provides our genuine strength. Let's look at exactly how this works and why it just makes so much sense. Okay, Part 1. The visible tip. Let's start our journey right at the surface, looking at what the world actually sees of us every single day. This is the part of our lives exposed to the sunlight, the wind, and, the harsh judgment of others. So the crucial point in this metaphor is the math. A surprisingly tiny fraction, we're talking only 10 to 20% of an iceberg, is actually visible above the water. When we look out at the ocean, we see this seemingly small block of ice bobbing in the waves, and we naturally assume, yep, that's the whole shebang. But that visual is completely deceptive. It hides the massive reality of what's keeping it afloat. And the author argues that it's exactly the same with people. We look at someone's life, we see their visible 10%, and we mistakenly think we know their entire story. This comparison brilliantly illustrates the contrast between the superficial things people judge us by versus the massive, silent effort we put in every day behind closed doors. The visible tip? That's your job title. It's your fame, the immediate successes you post on social media, that shiny car in the driveway. And hey, the world absolutely applauds the trophy. But what they don't see are the thousands of silent hours spent studying, the embarrassing failures, and all that quiet grit. That is your 80 to 90%. That is the unseen depth. It's the daily learning, the painful missteps you've analyzed in private, and all that immense silent effort that absolutely nobody claps for. Moving right along to Part 2, accumulating the unseen. Let's actually take a deep dive beneath the surface to explore what makes up that massive, unseen underwater block of ice. Because think about it, if the top is only 10 to 20%, what is happening with the other 80 to 90%? Well, it literally comes down to physics. If you want a higher peak above the water, you don't build up, you have to build down. Just like a real iceberg, it is this massive, unseen accumulation that displaces the water and creates the vital buoyancy needed to float stably. The source material notes that the sheer volume of ice pushing the water away underneath is exactly what generates the upward force, the buoyancy, to keep that visible tip high and incredibly stable. In life, your unseen efforts are exactly what generate your emotional buoyancy. So how do we actually build this? Expanding this invisible foundation isn't about massive, flashy events or life-altering epiphanies. Actually, scratch that. It's built through quiet, relentless daily habits. It's about daily reading and actively absorbing new knowledge. It's about taking the time to reflect deeply on why you failed yesterday, instead of just burying the embarrassment and quickly moving on. The text explicitly points to studying historical heavyweights, figures like Confucius, Jesus, or Socrates. The idea here is that by reading their words and actively absorbing their accumulated wisdom, you aren't just memorizing facts. You are literally adding massive blocks of ice to your own underwater foundation. You are borrowing their strength to drastically increase your own emotional buoyancy. Now, this is super interesting. The text introduces this fascinating concept called moyo no yo, which translates roughly to the use of the useless. It highlights how learning seemingly useless things acts like a crucial safety net. The source uses a brilliant analogy here. Imagine a tightrope walker. Walking on a rope laid directly on the ground, piece of cake. Anyone can do it. But take that exact same rope, string it high up between two towering rooftops, and suddenly the empty space around it matters intensely. That empty or unused knowledge, the obscure history, the dense philosophy, the broad education that you might not technically use at your 9-to-5 job every single day, acts just like a balance pole for that tightrope walker. It creates a wide, invisible safety net of perspective that keeps your mind perfectly balanced and stable when you're walking a high wire in life and the winds really start to howl.
All right, part 3, weathering the storms.
Because look, building this deep foundation isn't just some fun intellectual exercise for a calm, sunny day. It is strictly for survival. We see this vividly as we bring ourselves back up to the surface, right as a massive storm of hardship hits. The source compares navigating life's roughest waves to an Antarctic icebreaker ship. When navigating a frozen sea, an icebreaker must continuously extract lessons, adapt, and keep its engines moving forward. If an icebreaker stops moving, if it stalls out in the middle of a freeze, the ice rapidly thickens around the hull, trapping the ship entirely. Life is the exact same way. You have to keep pushing, constantly extracting meaning and learning from every single wave and block of ice that hits you. Otherwise, you risk getting completely frozen in place by your problems, just paralyzed by hardship. The text shares a profound historical example of this immovable mindset in action. When Thomas Edison's famous laboratory tragically burned down to the ground, years of incredible, highly visible work completely destroyed in a single devastating night, he didn't panic. He didn't break down or curse his luck. He reportedly stood there watching the flames consume his life's visible work and simply said, "I can start from zero again." Why? How on earth could anyone be so remarkably calm? Because his true foundation, his intellect, his hard-earned resilience, all those hours of silent study, was completely underwater. The fire couldn't even touch it. He hadn't lost anything that truly mattered to his ability to rebuild. His iceberg was still massively buoyant.
Which brings us to part 4, the unshakable mind.
Let's tie this whole thing together to understand the ultimate state of Fudoshin. What does it actually mean to have an immovable mind in the modern world? Well, it reveals a stark contrast. A fragile mindset, that is frantic. It's emotionally volatile and absolutely terrified of losing its visible status because, well, that 10% on top is literally all they have. They spend all their time polishing the tip of the ice, so if you knock it off, they instantly sink. But the Fudoshin mindset is completely different. It possesses this deep, calm buoyancy. Like Edison, people with immense unseen accumulation are unafraid. They know for a fact that even if the visible tip is completely sheared off by disaster, their massive unseen accumulation will simply push a brand new piece of ice above the water. They're entirely self-reliant and unshakable from the inside out. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a powerful, provocative question to chew on regarding where you invest your daily energy. Are you spending all your time frantically polishing the tiny visible tip of your iceberg, desperately trying to make it look perfect for everyone else to see? Or are you dedicating yourself to doing the quiet, unglamorous, unseen work in the depths? Are you reading, reflecting, and learning when absolutely no one is watching? Remember, if you want to stand tall above the waves, you don't build up, you build down. The deeper your unseen foundation, the more unshakable you become against the unpredictable storms of life. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.